Lands, 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 all day long. And if I had played a Legacy tournament again, I was always looking for an excuse to play lands, so this actually makes me quite happy.
The table 1 here going into round 12.
Yeah, just a lands mirror. I've always liked lands' deck. It's super fun to play, and it also doesn't let your opponent play.
So, setting aside, obviously, loam being the most significant thing, I would imagine exploration and mana bonds are really the critical cards in the matchup. Getting ahead on the land drops is really what you want to be doing.
Having a loam, obviously, is super important, but having a mana bond or an exploration, mana bond's actually the more explosive of the two. That's what's super important. So Blake having an exploration here is a huge deal. Long is going to sacrifice a Misty Rainforest. Going to dig up a land here. It might just be the old basic forest, since that one can't be hit by Wasteland. And it will be. Let's see what his follow-up's going to be. Does he have a 1-mana spell? He does, an exploration. So that's very important for him.
Oh, yeah. Especially facing down a Rashawn Port on the other side of the table.
Absolutely.
If he does not have exploration, it's a recipe to get blocked out potentially pretty fast.
Got to be able to keep up. There's Rashawn Port for him, too. Sanford will draw a card. Mox Diamond's what he's found. See the records here, 10-0-1 versus 10-1. Lance was one of the best performing decks of the Season 1 Invitational when we were in Richmond a couple months ago. And it's doing a heck of a job on this tournament, too. There's a Thespian stage. They're okay.
Okay, well, that's a draw.
Well, guess you better have an answer for that.
And it can't be Mazabith.
Yeah.
Because Blake has a Rashawn Port in play. Oh, the lands mirror match takes so long. Remember you said when we're going to time, et cetera, et cetera.
I don't remember that.
We're looking at...
Jeez.
Jeez.
A Caracas at a Thespian stage. All right, the 2020 token is legendary.
Yep. So now this gets a little bit more complicated where Blake rather needs to port the Caracas, then go off in one turn.
Yes.
Very fast mirror match. Turn 3 kills all over the place.
Whatever they're thinking right now.
Yeah.
They're in the tank.
I mean, Blake's got a, I would imagine Blake here wants to port something before he goes to his turn.
I feel like it's likely. I think he's already taken his draw step. Yeah, he's drawing a Tranquil Thicket for this turn, so no porting to be done. All right. So there's this other weird interaction here where I believe if David activates his Thespian stage and copies Blake's Dark Depths, he gets a 2020.
Okay.
So now we have a weird game of chicken.
Okay.
Kind of.
And this is why Blake can't be porting, because Blake needs to be able to threaten this.
Yes. Here's a gamble. I don't know what one gambles for in this situation. This is a lot of fun.
I guess loam, right? If both players are in a holding pattern, don't you want to just get loam going with exploration?
I don't know, you might just want to snag a Wasteland.
Sure.
Maybe.
But with Blake going down to 2 cards in hand, if he gets anything other than loam, there's a very high chance that he just loses it to the discard.
What's the most you've lost on a coin flip?
That's not an answer I'm going to say on the air. More than a Wasteland.
There goes Loam. Maybe that's what he searched for. Punishing fires in hand, so that's definitely what he searched for. I guess since we are in this semi-holding pattern.
Yep.
Now, what's unique about this situation is both of these players are clearly very good lands players, but it does make you wonder how much they've actually played the lands mirror.
As you mentioned, no one really likes to test against lands, and I'm assuming that the lands mirror is also something that these players would not go out of their way to test against.
Hey man, what are you doing this Wednesday?
I don't know, hanging out, maybe looking to play some Magic.
You want to test the lands mirror with me?
No, I do not.
Do you want to test the storm mirror instead?
Sure.
Or you know what? I got better. How about the dredge mirror? Let's do that. I think we got a Thespian Stage activation here. Looks like David's going after the Dark Depths. He wants a 2020. Blake would like to make a 2020, but David is the one with the Caracas. However, what this does is, okay, you want to target my Dark Depths? Fine, my Dark Depths is gone. I'm making a 2020. So this cancels out David's activation of the Thespian Stage. Caracas bounces the 2020. There's no longer Dark Depths on the table. Cool. We're through that stage of the game.
But this is not necessarily a bad spot for Blake to be in, because he's the one with Loam and Exploration, so he can rebuild potentially quite fast and reestablish this. Again, he just has to get in a position where he can handle the Thespian Stage and the Caracas via Ports and Wasteland and reassemble the combo.
Standard Premier IQ players, is there anyone still trying to find their seat? Standard players.
So let's see what David's going to do now, because I think he has a Loam too.
Okay. Welcome to round 3. You have 50
And we're out of the game of chicken now. That's over with. Looks like David's going to start with the Windswept Teeth. What a funky mirror match. Thespian Sages and Dark Depths everywhere. Blake was trying to present a 2020 right away to just win the game. But that got stopped by the Caracas. Here's a Taiga. I think now it's time to Loam. It is. So get back these 2 fetch lands.
So at this stage, David is sort of on the defensive because Blake is the one who's threatening to be able to assemble the kill.
Yeah.
So even though both players have Loam and Exploration, I would say David's the one who's trying to play defense for a little bit longer until he can dredge into some pieces that allow him to break up Blake's combo, or David's able to threaten his own. Now with Caracas in play, David has a lot of insurance against Blake being able to establish the combo. It requires a lot of effort on Blake's part to get the Thespian Stage down, the Caracas down, and combo out in 1 turn. David's got some time.
There's a second land for the turn. Another fetch land. I'm going to search up another Taiga. All right, well, David has the lead on lands, but Blake gets the first stretch with Loam. So 1 is a crop, 2 is a forest, 3 is a glacial chasm. Now we'll have a port inside of the draw steps, it seems. See what wants to go after. It's either port or Taiga. Those are the options. It's like going to shut down a Rashadan port.
Yeah, with Blake having a Mox Diamond, there's not a lot to be gained by trying to color screw him, and I think David just wants the most options as possible going to his own turn. So that old staple play of Standard 15 years ago, port your port.
Before my time.
Oh, that was me in my prime.
Life of Loam's going to bring back a couple of lands. Sanford will play land number 1 shortly. It's Verdant Catacombs.
You're playing in the modern
They'll crack it.
You should be moving towards your seat at this time.
Take 1 to search up a land here. We'll see if it's a basic or another copy of Taiga. It'll be a Taiga.
Modern players.
So that's land 1 for the
have
turn.
50 minutes for your round 2. You may begin.
And we might have a cycle here. There's land 2 in Thespian Stage. And that's going to be the turn here for Sanford. Dredge here from Long. Wasteland among the cards. Dark Depths 2. Third card was a Loam. So let's see what David puts together this turn. He can have a pretty decent Loam turn. Step 1 is casting the powerful sorcery and figuring out the targets. He's got his 3 lands. Wasteland's one of them. He's actually the first one to find Wasteland here, so it might be okay.
You know, the port in play and a Wasteland, he does have the opportunity to sort of leverage a min advantage a little bit. Blake is able to make 2 land drops against David's ability to nullify 2, but if David's able to find a second copy of Wasteland, then things can start getting very, very good.
Land 1 is Wasteland. Land 2 is Dark Depths.
This is also another way to do it, which is just go ahead and kill Blake with a Merit Leech.
I think he's going to Dark Depths right now.
Shields are down, doesn't want to get in any sort of staring contest.
Yep. Just got to pick your spots appropriately.
Especially with Blake having his own Thespian stage in play.
Going to sacrifice a Tranquil Thicket. Dredge alone. So where things get interesting now is David needs to leave this Wasteland up. See a Dredge here of a Mox Diamond, a Mana Bond, and a Punishing Fire. David needs to leave this Wasteland up because if Blake tries to copy Caracas, David can Wasteland his own land so that doesn't happen because Caracas is an answer to the Avatar token. So David might be considering Wastelanding the Thespian stage at this point.
He can also potentially wait and Wasteland his own Caracas and allow Blake to spend his mana trying to set that up.
Correct.
So David needs to be basically aware of this fact, but he doesn't have to move just yet.
Yeah, I don't think he needs to make a move at all. Also, to be fair, Thespian Stage actually does tap to activate. Now, one card that Blake could go get his Glacial Chasm with his Loam, but David has access to a Wasteland in his graveyard to loam back to kill the Glacial Chasm and then attack.
Yeah, Blake does not have a lot of outs in this spot because most of them involve having a land available on David's turn, and with David having a Wasteland, it's just very hard for that to happen.
So it seems as though the best card that Blake can find in this situation is his own Caracas, which he did not dredge into. He does not have a crop rotation. So the question is, does he even have a Caracas in his deck? And it doesn't look as though he does. Yeah, his one-ofs are a basic forest, a Glacial Chasm, a Tabernacle, and a Bajuka Bog. Bajuka Bog could be a delight. Not in this particular game.
Good one to be able to crop rotate for.
Yeah. Blake does have a Caracas in his sideboard, however, so that might come up in the sideboard games. He doesn't have one in his main deck.
And it seems to me like David appears slightly more familiar with the intricacies of the mirror match than Blake does. David's pace of play has been a lot faster.
Here is Life in the Loam. Gonna get back Glacial Chasm, Tranquil Thicket, and a Thespian Stage. Glacial Chasm, a very unique effect that you can sit behind in this deck when things are going right. There is the Glacial Chasm.
Especially potent alongside Exploration and Loam. Then you can set up a lock against a lot of decks, but not in this spot.
When it enters the battlefield, you have to sacrifice a land. Creatures you control can't attack, prevent all damage that would be dealt to you. However, when it's not on the battlefield, it doesn't matter. So you pass the turn back. You're David, you dredge your Loam. You turn over a couple of cards here. Looks as though they're all spells, 2 Life and Loams and an Exploration. And he's able to put together a combination of 2 Wastelands here. He should be good to go. So step 1 looks to be Life in the Loam. Get back a couple of lands.
At this point, David's major thing maybe you just worried about a crop rotation response.
You get an activation of Wasteland here. Looks like it's targeting Glacial Chasm. In response, Blake is going to activate his Thespian Stage to copy Glacial Chasm to stay protected.
But this is a very hard course for Blake to maintain over the course of several turns.
Yep.
His resources are going to just be ground down.
Land number 2 is Thespian Stage here for long. He'll pass his turn back.
It's a lot of mana to keep this going.
Yeah.
And there's a cumulative upkeep of life involved.
Here's a dredge. Yep, that's gonna bite the dust. Upkeep wasn't paid. And he's already dredged loans, so we'll see what the judge's ruling is here. But I believe he just missed the trigger.
Yeah.
Because Thespian Stage becomes a copy of the land, which means it has everything that it says, including cumulative upkeep. So bye-bye Stage.
And the dredge is occurring as a replacement of the draw.
Yep.
So we've moved past the upkeep.
Correct. Wasteland is 1. Mox Diamond is 2. Dark Depths is 3.
And now I don't think Blake can get everything back together in the face of a Wasteland on the other side of the table.
That and Port.
Yeah.
There's a Port for David to use here.
Port is pretty potent against Thespian Stage because it forces everything up front, and then the Wasteland can clean up whatever's left over on David's own turn.
David got to use his Port, leave Caracas and Taiga available, it seems. See what land he wants to go after here. He's going to slow down a Port. There's loam. We'll see what the targets are here for Sanford, but I do believe this is going to be too hard for him to get out of.
Yeah.
If it's not this turn, it seems as though it's going to be the next one.
Without a Caracas, I don't really see it happening.
Yeah.
Because he's got the Mox Diamond left over here, plus the 2 lands he gets back. That's 3 total mana. He can't really do anything with Glacial Chasm because Wasteland breaks that up. The Thespian Stage can't do anything because he doesn't have enough mana to activate Thespian Stage and then do something else with the turn.
I think he's just going to go through this really quickly to see if there's a way out of it. But I think David has gotten him into a situation, especially with the miscommunicative upkeep from the Thespian Stage. That was a Glacial Chasm.
Yeah, if he upkeeps the Glacial Chasm, then at least that's one piece of the puzzle. He has one piece of protection going to his turn. Going in with nothing and having to spend 2 mana to loam, I just don't think he can get it back together against David's ability to disrupt his lands.
Especially if David dredges into another Wasteland. Also got to remember, too, that Blake is staying neutral on lands at this point. He's not actually gaining an advantage because Glacial Chasm makes you sacrifice the land when there's the battlefield.
Yep.
As it's doing right now.
And loam costs 2 mana and makes 2 mana worth of lands with exploration in play. So this is a lot of spinning of the tires.
Yeah. The other thing about Glacial Chasm, it doesn't tap for mana.
Yeah, there's no Urborg on the other side of the table here, so it's just a non-mana producing land.
Or a Riftstone Portal in the graveyard, Patrick.
Boom. Another lands throwback.
That's right. David very quickly reaching for life in the loam. Wasteland and Glacial Chasm. Attacking for 20 hit points. And that is going to do it. David Long's going to win game number 1 here over Blake Sanford. The Lands Mirror goes to the player on the right, as now we get to look at these wild sideboards. This should be interesting. I see 2 Thorn of Amethyst, 2 Seismic Assault, 4 Crows and Grip, 4 Sphere of Resistant, a Dark Depths, a Caracas, and a Pithing Needle here for Blake Sanford.
I think you want the Dark Depths and the Caracas. Seems like that's what the determining factors in the game are going to be. I can also see the 2 copies of Seismic Assault coming in here because these decks are pretty good at fighting the Merit Lage battle between Caracas, ability to copy their own lands, but an unchecked Seismic Assault puts a lot of pressure on the other side of the table to come up with a kill very quickly.
Yeah, I think that Seismic Assault might be difficult to cast if you don't have Mox Diamonds going. I mean,
Sure.
Triple red might be a little difficult. I mean, there are a lot of colorless lands here. He does have 3 Taiga to Sanford and a lot of fetch lands. It's not impossible to cast. Also
Groves.
four Grove of the Burn Willows. I feel like it might be a little bit difficult to cast.
I agree with you, it's tough to cast. I think if it's in play, it's very good for Blake.
Yes,
Because
I would agree with that.
The matchup's a lot of staring at each other, a lot of jockeying over Merit Lage tokens over the course of several turns, and if Blake's just dredging and throwing 6 points of damage at David, that might be hard to beat.
What do we see on the other side?
2 copies of Trinisphere, an Emrakul the Aeon's Torn, a Bojuka Bog, a Boseiju who shelters all, 4 Crows and Grip, 4 Sphere of Resistance, 1 Choke, 1 Dark Depths. Like the Dark Depths, like the Bojuka Bog.
I love the Bojuka Bog.
Yep.
Both players have access to one too, so we might have a weird cat and mouse game there too.
Yeah, there's 4 copies of Crop Rotation. You can go get it instant speed. break up someone's dredging, and the additional copy of Dark Depth seems very nice when the games seem mostly like they're going to be determined by the first person who can put the combo together.
Let's talk Star City Games YouTube channel. Let's talk about Versus Series Premium Archives, Open Series Archives, and even sweet unboxings.
Yeah, there's a lot going on over at youtube.com/StarCityGames. Everything gets archived, so all those videos, even the premium ones, after a month are available for free on the YouTube page. And there's a variety of content that's exclusive to the YouTube page, like unboxing and much else. So head over to youtube.com/StarCityGames and become a subscriber today. It is free. There's a lot of cool stuff up there.
Including, in the middle of next week, the replay of this mirror match, which currently David Long is up a game against Blake Sanford. Blake Sanford was our lone undefeated player after day number 1. Gave Boswell his first loss, knocked the boss down to 8-1. Boswell now at 8-3 with Team Red Elver. And Sanford, well, he still hasn't lost it. He's 10-0-1.
And David looked really crisp. Blake is our undefeated player, 10-0-1. Very good run with Lance, had him on camera. Beating Andrew Boswell last round on the Swiss yesterday. Be our lone undefeated player going into the second day. David with a lone loss, I believe, in round 1 of this tournament.
Correct.
Rattled off 10 straight and looked very sharp that game.
Well, it seems as though, I mean, David's been playing Lance for a very, very long time. We've seen him in top 8s before and make deep runs in IQs, and I believe win a couple of them as well. But it's interesting to see how familiar these players are with the Lance mirror. Team, from watching that game, David was the more familiar of the two.
Well, it's got a lot of features. It almost feels a lot more like chess because what's in your opponent's hand doesn't really matter because almost the entire deck is sorceries and lands. It's really only crop rotation as the surprise gotcha kind of card you got to play around. Most of the pertinent information in the game is face up on the table. It's stuff in play or it's the graveyard plus your life in loan. So how well do you know the operations? How well do you know how the chess pieces interact with each other? That's going to determine how effectively you can play the mirror match. There's not a lot of room for bluffing here. It's really just crop rotation.
Yeah. But that's a card you have to be aware of because that can come out of nowhere.
And you saw David on not the last turn, but the second to last turn. He waited there for a while and thought about his lines of play because if Blake had crop rotation, suddenly things get very complicated for him. But I think he ultimately determined, well, one's already been milled over and, well, am I going to play around this forever or not? It's only going to get worse. So I got to get it out of the way if it's there.
Can't play around it forever.
No. It's not like these decks have discard or counter spells. Again, just a pile of lands, some sorceries.
I believe 35 of them on both sides. I know that Mr. Sanford has 35. He's got a few more spells. 4 gambles, 4 loams, obviously, 4 explorations, 2 mana bonds, 4 crop rotation, 3 punishing fires, and 4 copies of Mox Diamond to go along with his 35 lands. Now, even a couple of lands in the sideboard in Dark Depths, Raucous, and that's it, actually. Just have a Pithing Needle hanging out and some Thorn of Amethyst, some Sphere of Resistance. They like to board into these weird spells that make it difficult for combo to go off.
Exactly. This deck Storm matchup game 1 is a disaster. This deck is really ponderous, and it doesn't interact with people's hands, and that's not a good recipe for beating Storm. So you see them overload with these sideboard cards to try to fight that kind of matchup. You also see 4 copies of Crozan Grip in each sideboard. That is to try to fight specifically Counterbalance, because Counterbalance plus top with a 2 casting cost card on top of the deck, extremely hard for this deck to break out of.
Yeah, the ways that people try to go about beating these decks are artifacts and enchantments.
Yep.
Relic of Progenitus, Counterbalance, Leyline of the Void, Rest in Peace, stuff like that. So you see Crozan Grip in basically everyone's board, and the effect certainly needs to be uncounterable. Or as close to it as possible.
Even against Burn, the best cards are going to bring in against you are going to be Eidolon of the Great Revel and Sulfuric Vortex.
Yep.
It's got targets in almost all the hate cards people are bringing in against you. Crozan Grip's going to do some work.
Both players will take a look at their 7. Sanford will be on the play. Being on the play is where you want to be. Here's a Verdant Catacomb, so sacrifice that down to 19. It feels like he may have a little something to do here on turn 1. Keep in mind, he did search for the non-basic, not the basic here. There's an exploration. Here's a Grove of the Burn Willows. And pass turn back. Over to Long, who will draw. A little surprised to see Punishing Fire still in the deck after board.
Yeah, there's not a lot to be done with that card. I mean, I know there's some land decks that have had Dark Confidant in the sideboard before, but David really showed no black mana in game number 1, and that's a very narrow sideboard card anyway.
Here's a Mox Diamond. There goes Grove of the Burn Willows.
Maybe back in the day, you could say, well, the games are going to be going on for so long that just looping Punishing Fire is a way to kill. But now, when it's Dark Death Thespian Sage as the primary kill, Punishing Fire does not line up very well there.
There's Exploration. Long will sacrifice his Wooded Foothills.
And if David's got the Loam, that's about the best hand you can ask for here.
It's a perfect hand.
Maybe you'd rather have Mana Bonds than the Exploration, but this is about as good as it's going to get.
Yep, this is as good as it gets
Ooh.
here.
It's a lot of mana and Loam.
Yep.
And you see Blake's hand. He's got 2 lands and a Punishing Fire.
Also has a Seismic Assault and Grip.
Which is really good if he finds Loam.
Yes.
And David does not kill him very quickly.
Correct. There's your 2 lands. One of them's a Port, one's a Grove. Give away some life to drop the Assault. But you mentioned he's got to find Loam now.
I think he's got Gamble. So this is a slow setup, but he can get the ball rolling over the course of the next couple turns. And if David isn't able to assemble Dark Death plus Thespian Sage, maybe that's good enough. I think it's going to be tough, though, because David's opening here has been so explosive.
He'll dredge. Maze of Ith, Crop Rotation, along with the Grove of the Burn Willows.
Adding to Blake's trouble is I believe David has a copy of Crop Rotation in his hand, which means he only needs to find one of the 2 combo pieces to do what he needs to do.
Also can search for the old Bajuka Bog.
Yeah. In the event that Blake gets a Loam going, David can shut that off. So he's got just a ton of control over the way the game looks right now.
Against other teams.
There's Grove of the Burn Willows.
With me on the left side of the stage at the Sidemen Station.
That's land number 1. This is a life from the Loam, it looks like. Maybe not yet. I think he wants to fetch first, make sure he can get 3 lands back. Maximize his Loam this turn. It'll be a Tiger here in just a moment. Who says you need Brainstorm?
You get the Ancestral every turn, sort of.
Yeah, I don't need no Brainstorm, I just need a bunch of lands. You gotta play multiple a turn. That's all.
This deck generates card advantage in a different way. One is Loam and the other is a lot of opposing cards don't do anything against this deck.
Yeah. Super easy. There's Exploration number 2, which means David only gets to play 3 lands per turn. There's the 3rd land. Pass the turn back, Port at the ready. Crop Rotation 2, upkeep, there will be a Port. We'll see if he wants to go after Port or Taiga. Can't imagine he's going to have a Grove of the Burn Willows.
And once a player establishes an Exploration advantage alongside Loam, it means that Wasteland now becomes an additional element. If David's able to piece together some Wastelands, he can push Blake out of the game that way as well.
Here's Gamble. In this deck, it's Demonic Tutor.
For Loam, not Demonic Tutor. It's
Yes.
Gamble for everything else.
Well, yeah, it can, I mean, it
If
can,
you have a Loam, then it's also...
Demonic Tutor.
Right.
Looks like Blake did Gamble for Loam, as that's the only thing that he's missing to get going.
Sometimes this deck does Gamble for Crop Rotation because Crop Rotation is so powerful in certain spots. But for the most part, you're trying to put together Loam.
There goes Punishing Fire. Loam and Mox Diamond in hand. Loam is going to get back. Verdant Catacombs. Not all that exciting yet. Got some work to do.
Right now, it just feels like, you know, Blake's in 2nd gear, trying to get to 3rd gear, and David's already in 4th gear.
Yeah.
Just Blake is just way far behind in all the ways that the resources develop in this matchup.
There's a Forest. Blake just left with a Mox Diamond in hand. He'll pass the turn back, trying to bluff a Crop Rotation here. Trying to just get everything set up so he can start firing lands away with Seismic Assault. David's going to dredge. 3 cards coming. Tabernacle is 1. Loam is 2. Gamble is 3.
Tabernacle is a little surprising to see in the deck post board.
Likewise, I was a little surprised by that. Not sure what that really pinpoints after board.
And going through David's deck, you can see that he's brought in his copies of Crozan Grip, at least a few of them.
Oh, it gives him outs to all the problematic enchantments, especially the two that are on the table.
Exploration and Mana Bonds are both great targets.
Smart play there by Long. Porting the forest. That's the only mana that Sanford does have available. So David wants to play around crop rotation to the best of his ability here. Has to be a little worried about crop rotation for Bojuka Bog. Here is crop rotation from Long. I think he's going to go get his Bojuka Bog right now to probably take care of this loam. That's exactly what he's going to do. So Bojuka Bog looking very powerful there. Sanford left with just a Mox Diamond in hand.
And this is also kind of a sideways way of taking care of the Seismic Assault as well,
Yep.
because now there's no fuel for it.
So Long can comfortably pass the turn back. He'll play a Maze of Ith. The draw this turn for Blake, I believe, was a gamble.
Yep, I mean, that's what it has to be.
Yeah. Lets him rebuild, search up Loam. It was rather important that it was there. Got to get that engine back online. But again, David Long is just so far ahead.
Yep. And Blake, having just been Bojuka Bogged, has no graveyard to speak of.
Yep. He's got no nothing. If I was David, I would just let him discard the Loam. Just let him have it. I know he's got a Mox on me. Just let him discard the Loam.
Let him have something.
Come on. Gamble's done resolving. Loam in the graveyard. David's going to dredge his Loam. I guess we'll have a port on the upkeep here. Sanford going to tap down a Taiga. Now we'll get a dredge. So let's see what 3 cards we turn over here for David Long. Crozan Grip, Tranquil Thicket, Windswept Teeth. Thicket is huge here. Lets him go into overdrive.
Yeah, that's another way to be dredging every single turn a second time and assembling the combo as fast as possible.
Going to cast a Loam off a Taiga and a Bojuka Bog.
Also keep in mind that if David finds a Wasteland, he can Wasteland his own Bojuka Bog, get that back, and Bojuka Bog Blake again.
Yep.
So we can keep Loam contained on Blake's side of the table for the entire game. I don't believe he's found a Wasteland yet, but it's only a matter of time. He's going to be milling over 6 cards a turn very soon between Loam and Tranquil Thicket.
It's time to cycle Tranquil Thicket. Instead of drawing a card, he'll replace the draw with the Dredge of Life in the Loam. So in a way, he'll actually draw 3 cards. Grove of the Burn Willows, Mana Bond, and Misty Rainforest are the cards that are turned over. Now it's time to Loam again. Keep in mind, he hasn't even played a land yet. He gets to play 3 of them. So that's 1. So he'll pick up 3 lands, the most important of which is Tranquil Thicket. That's land number 2. This is when this deck gets really fun. Tabernacle is land number 3. Pass that turn back. Sanford will dredge his life in the Loam. Mox Diamond is 1. Wasteland is 2. Crop Rotation is 3. He gets 1 land to return. We'll have a port here from Long. He'll go after Sanford's Rashad and port in the draw step. For Sanford, he can bring back a Wasteland, kill all land, but that's obviously nothing impressive. He can maybe hold it for Seismic Assault too, but that clock is rather slow.
Yep. There's nothing really productive to Wasteland at this point.
He'll deploy the Wasteland, but you can see the world of difference between what Sanford's doing and what Long's doing.
Yep.
It's night and day right now.
David hasn't even found a Wasteland yet. This could be even worse for Blake if that had happened.
Oh, yeah.
Blake's at risk of all of his lands getting mowed down or David looping the Bojuka Bog, or both.
That's being staged among the cards turned over. There's also a Crop Rotation and a Crozan Grip. That was from a cycling of Tranquil Thicket. Long checking his graveyard to see if there's a loam there. There's not, so he actually has to take a draw step.
Bummer.
Pretty lame, yeah. He'll cast a loam now, however. Tranquil Thicket will certainly be one of the targets. Wouldn't be surprised if there's a Thespian stage involved, too.
It's another piece of the puzzle.
There's a Windswept Heath. He's getting his way to Dark Depths.
Again, Blake is basically playing hand up.
Yes. Cycle the Tranquil Thicket. Dredge a couple of cards. Somebody's found some Wastelands, finally.
There we go.
Now he can start firing away at those lands if he'd like to. Really make life difficult here for Blake Sanford. There is Loam. He's got his 3 targets, 2 Wastelands and a Thicket.
And if he has 2 remaining land drops here, I would not be surprised to see him wasteland his own Bojuka Bog. I guess he needs another Loam to set that up in hand.
Yes.
But I think David basically either wants to be killing Blake, like setting up the combo if it's available, or taking out the Loam on Blake's side of the table. Because if Blake doesn't have Loam going, it's hopeless.
Yep, so what he's going to do here is he's going to wasteland his own Bojuka Bog. He may have drawn a Loam for the turn, actually.
Yeah, he's got another Loam in hand, so he can get this all set up.
He'll target some lands, one of which is Bojuka Bog. He will be playing a Bojuka Bog, triggered, take care of Blake's graveyard again. Most importantly, take care of the Loam. See you later, Alligator. Leave you with a Mox Diamond in hand. We'll see what else David can put together this turn, if anything. Doesn't really need to do all that much more. He can start going after the lands on Sanford's side if he liked with the Wastelands. And this is what land's all about. Really what it tries to do is tries to put you in a sleeper hold.
Yep. At this point, now Blake is just playing with a draw step and permanence in play. There's no engine. And David has the ability to cut it off at a moment's notice by getting the Bojuka Bog into his graveyard and then back with a Loam.
Yep.
So now he can just switch gears a little bit and just start looping Wastelands, taking care of all of Blake's non-basic lands, and winning at his leisure.
It just tries to incapacitate you so that you can't do anything. Now, oddly enough, I think that Sanford may have just drawn a Loam again. Casting doesn't really do all that much. But Sanford can activate Wasteland, kill one of David's lands, Loam back the port and the Wasteland, and sort of get the engine going again.
The issue here, again, is this is just a one-turn thing.
Correct.
Because if David wants to, he shuts it off by killing his own Bojuka Bog, getting it back, and nuking Blake's graveyard again.
I think that's what we're going to see.
And then I believe at that point, Blake is down to 1 Loam left. And if at any point David happens to simply find a Dark Depths to pair with his Thespian Sage, he can simply kill Blake instead.
Yeah, there's nothing Blake can do about it. But why this deck is so potent is because against specific decks in the format, it does a very nice job of not allowing them to interact. It's very good against Delver strategies, for example. We saw it yesterday when Blake Sanford beat Andrew Boswell when Boswell was playing Teamer Delver in round 9. And you have to imagine that's what these two guys have played against mostly. You know, it seems as though there's not a lot of combo in the room given our metagame breakdown. And as such, life is pretty good for these guys.
Yep.
You know, even like a deck like Omnitel. Omnitel's a really potent deck, but if you get a card like Thorn of Amethyst in play against them, or Sphere of Resistance, you know, it's a deck that has a bunch of cantrips that relies on the fact that they're 1 mana. You make those cantrips 2 or 3 mana.
And it is vulnerable to Rashad ports, too.
Absolutely it is. It's not like it's a deck that plays a lot of lands. You know,
Yeah.
Wasteland isn't very good against it, but that's about really the only weakness.
It doesn't have a lot of explosive mana. There's only a few 2-mana lands. There's no Lotus Petals and so forth, so Rashad port is potent against them.
You can be pretty good against Elves, though Elves produces its mana from creatures mostly.
Yeah, and I think David's established the lock, and Blake is just letting this one go.
Yeah, Blake knows that he's just... David's advantage is overwhelming
Yep.
in this particular game. There's no coming back, and that's why Blake's going to concede the game, is David Long is going to win this game and match 2-0. The Lansmere goes to the gentleman in the Washington Nationals hat. So congratulations to David Long, who is now 11-1 in this tournament, pacing the field after starting things off with a loss and no buys. He is now 11-1 here from Worcester. It's a very, very impressive run.
Yeah, very commanding 2